Shifting gears into looking at the hair that's in your skin. Now we know the hair itself has the hair follicle that starts in the dermis, but we need to get a little more detail about what the actual hair is, the structure, and how it works. So first of all, what is hair itself? Well, hair literally is keratinized skin cells. So those keratinized skin cells are going to be taken from the epidermis, and then they're basically put into the actual hair, and that's what the hair grows itself. All the cells in the hair, except the very bottom in the roots, are all dead. That's why haircuts don't really hurt, because you're cutting dead cells. You'll only usually feel it is if a hair gets pulled out, because there are nerve receptors around the hair follicle. So all of this is also colored by melanocytes. Just like your skin has melanocytes and melanin, your hair has melanocytes that can produce different pigmentations. Now you'll have hair from head to toe, with a couple exceptions. Hair is not found palms of hands, soles of feet, or on the actual lip. Now you're saying, well, hold on, mustache and hair, yes, but think about lip as the actual colored portion. You don't have hair on the colored portion. Just above and below, yes, but not actually on the lip. You also don't have hair on the actual nipple or some external genitalia. So there's different places in the body, but for the most part, hair can be almost everywhere from head to foot. And you'll have 3 different classifications or types of hair. The first one, lanugo, is going to be more of an in utero. It's very fine, very tiny hairs. You might see some of it when a newborn is first born. They might have some really fine hair kind of covering their body, but it's not even always there. So this one really isn't seen a ton. Vellus. This one you'll see on the babies as they're growing, as well a lot of times it's more on females. It's a thinner, finer hair. It's not quite as small and fine as the actual lanugo, but it is on the thinner and finer side. The last one, terminal hair. That's typically what you think of when you think of hair. It's thicker, it's coarser, it's stronger. So the terminal hair is what a lot of times you'll have males have on their arms, for example, compared to females. And it's what usually is the thicker, heavier hair at that point. So your terminal hair. So what actually is the parts of hair? There are 3 main components, from the shaft to the root to the bulb. The hair shaft is anything not anchored by the follicle. So this whole thing here is hair shaft, because it's not actually anchored by the follicle itself. The root is what's embedded. This is going to be the root right here. So it's kind of what's holding it down, anchoring it down into the actual area. While the very bottom, this swelling down here, that's the hair bulb. It's what keeps things in place. And it's also the only place you're going to find living cells in the hair is down the very bottom of that hair bulb. So we have the shaft, the root, and the bulb, the 3 main parts of hair. Usually you only see the actual shaft, that's what's coming above the skin. Only time you see the root or the bulb is if you pull a hair out. If you look closely, you'll see at the very bottom, there's that little area that's a little wider. That's the hair bulb. So now if we look at the hair from a cross-section point of view, we'll have medulla, we'll have cortex, and we'll have cuticle. The medulla is center. Just like any other organ, medulla means middle. So the very middle, the kind of core of the hair, the very center, that's the medulla. That's where a lot of times you'll actually find a little more air, actually. The cells are a little more air-filled, and where a lot of times the coloration comes from. The cortex. Cortex is what's surrounding the medulla. They're very flatter cells, rings and rings of flatter cells, creating a cortex around the medulla. And then outside the cortex is the cuticle. The cuticle, again, are flat, thin cells, but you can kind of think of them as overlapping shingles. Think about on the roof, how you have a shingle, overlaps a shingle, overlaps a shingle. That's what's happening in the cuticle around the hair. by overlapping all these cells that allows for a little more protection underneath and creates a solid outside barrier. So we have middle medulla, outside cortex, and the very edge is the cuticle. Now, to kind of look at these, here is a view. This is more of a sagittal cut, but it's the same idea. What you're seeing is the actual medulla is this section right in the middle. That's the medulla, right in the middle of the hair. You then have the cortex, which is out here and out here. That would be wrapping around the medulla. Again, I'm looking at it from the side, so can't see that. It would wrap around. And the very outside edge is the cuticle, which is this layer right here. That would be the cuticle. So those three parts make up the hair. All of this, that's the follicle outside the hair. That's not the actual hair. The hair itself is this structure. That's all the hair, what's inside that area. So the hair papilla. Now we're down in the bulb, so in the very bottom. The hair papilla is this little structure right here. If you notice, inside that hair papilla, you can see red and blue. The red and blue are capillaries. That's how you bring the blood, so the nutrients, the gases, everything that's needed for that hair to grow. That's all happening in the hair papilla. The hair matrix, that's found just above it. That hair matrix is the area that the new cells are growing in. So you'll produce new cells, push the old ones up. Produce new, push up. That's how the hair is growing. Each new one is pushing the previous layer above it. So you make more cells, go through more mitosis. You push layer by layer up to create all the hair length. So the hair matrix is being fed and provided from the hair papilla. Here's another view. This area right here, that would be the hair papilla. All the capillaries are found inside that area. You can then notice this area here. That's the hair matrix. That's where the cells are growing. You can notice how it's a darker coloration in here. That's because that's where all the melanocytes are that are producing the pigmentation. From that point, everything grows upwards and is pushed up. So the hair papilla feeding the hair matrix. And we mentioned the hair follicle previously, but the hair follicle is what's around the hair. So it's not actually part of the hair. It's what creates a casing or a channel for the hair to go from the dermis up to the skin surface. Now, the hair follicle is made up of epidermis that's been folded down into the dermis. So what you're seeing actually is this coloration up here, that's epidermis. That's going to be what we're seeing. You'll notice that goes down this channel. By going down the channel, you're taking epithelial tissue and you're creating an actual pocket as you go down. So that helps to support the hair as it grows and gives those new keratinocytes a place to grow and then push up. But you'll notice also around it, these yellow lines, those are hair follicle receptors. They're nerve endings. What they're going to do is if the hair moves, that's going to move the follicle. That triggers those receptors saying, hey, send a stimulus. Something is moving the hair. Whether it be a light breeze and you feel it just going across your skin, the hair's moving, or an insect lands and the hair moves. But that movement can trigger a response because of that nervous innervation right there. So you have these hair follicle receptors around the hair follicle. But outside of that epithelial tissue, so outside of the epithelial hair follicle, there's an outer follicle sheath that is connective tissue. So you actually have both together. You have this inner sheath, which is going to be epithelial tissue. So all this is epithelial tissue. But this outside part, that's all going to be connective tissue. And that connective tissue comes from the dermis. which means we're looking at the same types of tissue. Dense irregular, areolar. It's basically creating an outside sheath around the in pockets that was the epithelial tissue that came down. So you have this inner and outer portion of your hair follicle. So what does hair do? Well, one thing is body image. Hair is kind of a way for people to express things, especially hair on the top of your head. People have different styles, different colors. It's all what makes you unique. So it helps with your body image of who you are and how you want to present. But it's not just that, it's hair all over your entire body. Insects. If one lands on you, you can sometimes sense that because the hair moved. The insect lands on there, stimulates the hair follicle, you see what's going on. You react appropriately. On the top of your scalp, it helps with cushion. Now, obviously, it's not going to stop massive impact, but a light little bump can help with a little bit of cushioning there. Scraping, the hair scrapes across instead of damaging the scalp below it. UV radiation, the hair protects the underlying cells of the scalp. So you have different ways that hair can help protect on the top of your head. Eyelashes. Now, you're thinking eyelashes. Well, think about this. If anything comes at your eyes, what happens? You blink. That blinking is a way to try and protect things from getting into your eyes. The eyelashes, as you close, they create a mesh. Try and prevent anything from getting into the actual eye itself. So it's a way of protecting. Eyebrows, nonverbal communication. Because as you're looking at something, you can have different looks, being quizzical or curious or scared or happy. The eyebrows can help to move in different ways to express what the feelings are. So eyebrows, nonverbal communication. Nose and ear hairs. These ones are helping to filter particles, prevent insects from going through. So in the case of the ears, it's trying to keep insects out, and any particles going in can get put into the earwax. In the case of the nose, that's also trying to keep insects out, but as you inhale, it's taking and creating turbulence. So those little particles are coming in, can get stuck in the mucus lining of your passageway. So it's helping to kind of get things out of the air and help to clean up the air a little bit. So try and protect your lungs in that case. So ear and nose hair help with filtering particles. So your hair, just a few things they can do. Now, obviously, hair itself has a lot of parts and pieces and structures, but each one of these is helping in different ways. Different from nonverbal communication, to filter particles, to abrasions on the head. So looking at different ways that hairs can help.